If you want to support the channel, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video, and in this one I wanted to give a demo of all of the legendary, infamous, and notorious gear that we have seen so far in Suicide Squad. What I've done here, I've actually scoured all of the footage I could possibly find across all of the different creators that had early access reviews and previews, and basically just took a bunch of screenshots of all of the different gear, legendaries, infamous, and notorious gear that we could find in the game to kind of show everybody all of the perks that we know of so far. So I'm going to kind of go through them. Anybody who I did take some footage of, I will have their link down in the description of the video below, so definitely go and check them out. And if you like Suicide Squad, especially endgame content, be sure to sub to this channel, give the video a like, and let me know down in the comments what character you're going to be maining at launch. So I'm just going to go through these. I just kind of have them as screenshots, so bear with me a little bit on some of the quality of these and the actual production quality of this video, but I'll go through them in pretty much in alphabetical order here. So the first one we have is the Bang Grenade. All right, so the perk here is limited to carrying one grenade at a time, but each grenade does 500% damage and has 100% bigger explosion radius. So this is pretty huge. This is basically going to be like a mini nuke. There have been some footage of this grenade. It seems extremely powerful, but does have the downside of the one grenade at a time. So I think this may end up being one of the better grenades in the game, especially if you have pretty high grenade drop rate, and you can kind of refresh that quickly. Also, there are perks where that I've seen on other legendaries that when you get a crit with a gun, you get a grenade drop that copies your equipped grenade. I've also seen, when you slide, you get a grenade, things like that. So if you're using other perks that kind of interact with grenades and what grenade you currently have equipped, obviously legendary grenades, you're going to kind of want to look through those and all that stuff, and I think this is definitely going to be one of the better ones, so definitely keep an eye out for this one. The next one we have here is called the Best Offense. So this is a Harley Quinn legendary traversal mod, and basically hitting 3 or more enemies with your traversal attack now fully recharges your shield. So the traversal attack is kind of the L&R attack that you do from the air. Harley's pretty similar to most of them, is kind of just a homes in on one enemy, hits a big area of effect. I'm not super sold on this one. Seems a little bit of a basic mechanic. I mean, recharge your shield, sure. I guess if you can get your traversal attack, recharged pretty quickly, it could be a good way to stay alive. Or if there's some sort of benefit to having like a fully charged shield, if you can do something like when you have a full shield charge or when your shield gets depleted, you do some sort of burst. I could see something like that being a good pair with this, but not a bad mod. I mean, I guess we'll have to see when it launches, but there it is. Hitting 3 enemies with your traversal attack now fully recharges your shield. Next one we have here is the Black Mask. All right, so what this one is, this is a Notorious weapon. This is Black Mask's Notorious weapon, the Bullet Storm. And an interesting thing about this, and I should kind of mention the interesting thing about all of these legendary perks, is they're interchangeable. So mostly for the guns, you'll see this one that I'm showing right here is actually a heavy weapon, an LMG, but this Black Mask Bullet Storm can apply, and the perks here can apply to a pistol, a sniper, any weapon type in the game. So you can get these same perks on something different, right? So this one in particular is just the heavy weapon version, but basically what it does, each enemy hit with this firearm receives Black Mask's mark. Applying Black Mask mark to 3 different enemies within 6 seconds cause all marked enemies to trigger a fire explosion that burns nearby enemies. So basically, you just want to spray a ton of enemies with this in a short period of time, and really just spread that Black Mask mark across, and then all these enemies will essentially burn, cause an explosion, and burn anyone who's nearby. So this seems extremely good for crowd control, for dot builds, damage over time, especially if you can pair this with something. We haven't seen too much that pairs like with burn, but if you can get things that kind of extend or increase your burning damage, that could be even better. I would definitely recommend this exact item here, something like a heavy weapon, to be able to spread that, right? I'll show you next just to show you what I'm talking about. You can actually get this exact perk on something like a pistol, right? So this is the same exact gun, but you're seeing it on a pistol here, right? It's a Black Mass Bulletstorm pistol, same exact perk, same exact thing, right? I think the difference is you actually get a little more time to do it. So it's within 12 seconds instead of 6. So there might be some changes like that just differently, but something like this I think is more of a crowd control effect. I think you'll definitely want to do it on a high rate of fire weapon to really be able to spread it around, or not. Maybe you know, this gives those single target damage weapons a little bit more of a crowd control effect that they didn't otherwise have. So you'll be able to kind of mix and match and see what works for your playstyle and of course your character. But really cool effect. Can definitely see this being one of the better kind of notorious villain pieces of gear or perks in the game. So that's pretty sweet. And just one more to show you that we did also get is the same thing but on a sniper rifle. So you may have seen this in some other, I think a lot of different previewers got this same exact piece, but same thing here, right? And this one says 9 seconds, right? So they're a little different, but you know, either way, however and whatever playstyle or gun you want to use, you'll be able to get this perk on all of them. So just something to keep in mind for the rest of this video is when you're looking at some of these guns, just remember that it's really the perk you're looking for, right? Because the perk can go on any gun you want. So just understand what perks you think will be best and then figure out the guns later. That's my advice. All right, so next one we have here is called Bugs A-Poppin'. All right, now this one basically is kind of interesting. In this case, it's on an SMG. Hitting a Terminaut, and a Terminaut is just an enemy, right? It's still just any of the enemies that have all purple on them. Hitting a Terminaut with this firearm does no damage, but puts every enemy within 10 meters of that Terminaut into slow motion. This is really interesting. So slow motion is exactly as it sounds, right? They're kind of frozen. They're still moving, I think, but they're really not doing too much. They're definitely easy fish for the shooting, right? But it does no damage. It's a no damage gun, right? So this to me is obviously very much of a support weapon. I think similar to, you know, the Black Mask's mark, definitely kind of a crowd control type of element to this. Obviously it hits everything within a 10-meter radius. So you kind of want to just spread things out. You want to be kind of just, you know, spraying and praying here and just kind of put whole groups of enemy firing up into the air for your team to help out with. But really, really sweet gun. I think, you know, you get to equip 2 guns. So I think this might be one that's maybe your backup gun. Maybe not your main DPS, of course, because it does 0, but kind of just more of your support weapon when necessary. But I think this, if it kind of plays out and is really powerful as a support weapon, could definitely be one that we see a lot of play. All right, next one we have here is called the bullet-propelled grenade. So this is one that I mentioned before to pair with your currently equipped grenade. In this case, it's on a pistol. Ignore the actual visual there. I think I took the screenshot before the weapon animation actually changed. You might see that with a couple of these because some of these were pretty quick. But basically here, critical hits with the weapon spawn a live grenade at the enemy hit. The grenade does an additional 100% more damage when it explodes. This can only happen once every 30 seconds. So really, really sweet, right? Anytime you crit, and don't forget with crits, right? After you melee an enemy, your next hits on them or your next couple of hits, if they're still up in the air, are all guaranteed crits, right? The other thing, if you're using the electric, I don't know if that's the exact name of it, but the Affliction, that's the lightning themed one, that guarantees critical hits as well. So critical hits will be pretty easy to come by, but they certainly won't be super rare. So this is really interesting. Every 30 seconds, you know, you're going to get one of your grenades to just spawn at the enemy's feet, explode right there, and it's going to do 100% more damage than your normal grenade that you throw. So pair that again, like I said, with the bang grenade that does 500% more damage than a normal grenade, plus an extra 100 on top of that. And we don't know if the damage is multiplicative, if it'll be 1,000 or if it'll just be 600. We don't know that yet, but you know, if it's 1,000, you're looking at some big damage. So this is really cool. This could really go on anything. Because it only triggers every 30 seconds, you could have this on a pistol, a sniper, low rate of fire weapons, doesn't really matter. Really, really sweet. I think this is definitely going to be one of the better perks in the game. And just wanted to show you just for clarity's sake, I have another one here. This is the same thing, a bullet propelled grenade, but this one is on a sniper rifle. So same thing, like I said, just for awareness, you can get the same perk on any rolled weapon. So just something to remember there. All right, next one we have is the Come At Me. So this one here is Captain Boomerang's legendary, one of his legendary melee weapons. So these are obviously unique to the character, right? You can't get this same melee perk on, say, Harley or King Shark. It's a Captain Boomerang one. Melee hits on an enemy who can be countered will do 400% more damage and send them flying. So if you remember the counter mechanic where they you'll see that little kind of lightning bolts coming down, and they give you a chance to do your counterattack on them. You can also melee hit them at that same time, and the way this works, if you do it at that time, you'll completely decimate that enemy. You'll do 400% more damage with that melee, and they'll go flying into the air. So really cool. The counter mechanic is a little bit tricky to get used to, so this might be one that if you're not really super comfortable or you just don't like that mechanic in general, this may be one to kind of help you ease off of that a little bit and just not have to worry about it, because you can just focus on melee instead. So pretty cool legendary for Captain Boomerang. Definitely a pretty unique effect. So we'll see how this one plays out. Next thing we have here is called Free Flow. And I apologize, a lot of these screenshots were taken in just different maps, different screens. This one was done while the person using it was actually augmenting or applying an affliction, so kind of get it in a little bit of a weird screen here. It might be tough to see, but this is a legendary blade, so that'll be for King Shark. And basically melee hits give you a 4x combo, and you can use your suicide strike only when you're above 20x combo. So basically, if you know when you're dealing damage, when you're hitting enemies, you're gaining that combo meter, right? And then when you get hit or take damage or whatever the case, you start to lose that combo meter, or if you just don't hit enemies in a certain amount of time. The higher your combo meter, the more perks on your skill tree will actually light up, all right, and be active. So you do want your combo meter as high as possible. What this does is essentially gives you 4x combo every melee you hit. So if you start meleeing left and right, you're going to get a ton of combo very quickly. And you can use your suicide strike at the cost of 20 combo. However, it costs that actual 20 to use. So you'll go down every time you use your suicide strike, which is, of course, kind of your takedown, your square and X beatdown effect. It'll cost you 20 of your combo, but you can do it just for the cost of that. You don't have to actually worry about your suicide strike meter building up. So if you can just keep building your combo, you can just do suicide strikes back to back to back to back to back. This to me is very, very, very good. I think this will be one of the better pieces of melee gear, specifically for like a melee build. Now, obviously, I don't know if we're going to get pure melee builds. I do think that it will have to be a little bit of a mix of melee, some gunplay, because once you do melee, you do get guaranteed crits with a gun. So I feel like you will probably be leaving damage on the table if you're not incorporating a gun a little bit, even like a shotgun. But some sort of melee melee gun combo with this blade, you're going to be getting a lot of combo meter, which is going to absolutely put your characters right to the moon. And whether you're doing the suicide strike or you're just using this to straight up get up to that 50x combo or higher and just activate all your ultimate abilities, all your perks, all that stuff, seems like a very, very strong King Shark. Might be, I don't want to make any definitive judgments, but this might be the best melee piece on King Shark. That's my prediction just from what we've seen so far. All right, next one we have here is the free refills. So this is, I think, going to be the best gun in the game, or the best legendary perk in the game. This one's on an assault rifle. Basically what it does, you can see at the bottom, every 4 critical hits with this firearm will cause it to instantly reload. And the weapon itself has 50% increased critical hit chance. Chance, not damage, chance. So you're going to be critting with this gun all the time. And again, we don't know if the multipliers here are additive or multiplicative. So what I mean by that is, let's say your character just has 10% crit chance intrinsically. This gun says 50% increase. Does that mean you have a 60% chance to crit, or do you have a 15% because it's 50% of the 10%? We don't know those details outright, but regardless, in any sense, a 50% increased crit hit chance is a very, very high amount. You're going to be critting with this gun all the time. So you pair this with something, like I said, 4 critical hits will cause it to instantly reload. You're going to be pairing this with anything. I mean, you're going to be critting all the time. I would pair this with possibly a shotgun, right? That way you can just never have to reload your shotgun. You just completely unload into an enemy. That can be extremely powerful, especially maybe on bosses. I don't know. I just think the crit rate might be a little too high. And I think, like I said earlier, there are other ways to get crits, right? After melee, you're critting guaranteed. During that shock status effect, you're critting guaranteed. So there are other ways to get crits. So maybe I'm overestimating this crit chance a little bit. It's entirely possible. But call me crazy. This will be a gun that I'm definitely looking for quite a bit. I think that reload will really up your DPS. Not having to stop to reload really on any gun. Could be an assault rifle, could be an SMG, LMG, like I said, shotgun, just leaning into somebody nonstop without having to reload. And getting pretty much all crits, I think that would be pretty strong, but that's just me. But there it is, the free refills. Let me know what you think of this one. Like I said, this might be one of my favorites right off the bat, but you tell me. And again, just for demonstration, here's another free refills, but this one is on an SMG. So I'll stop showing the duplicates. I think you guys get the point that you can get more than one. Next one here is called Give Tribute. So this is a King Shark mod. This is a traversal mod for King Shark. When you hit 3 enemies or more with your Atlantean drop, which is of course his traversal attack, they all become shield harvestable. So if you've played the alpha, maybe you've seen in just footage, the enemies that kind of start glowing that light blue, that means they're shield harvestable. Your melee attacks do a ton of extra damage to them, and you regenerate your shield by hitting them with that. So this, again, as it reads, once you hit with that Atlantean drop, you'll be able to shield harvest anyone in the area who survived. You just clean them up, right? Could be good. We'll have to see. It's hard to tell because from just my experience, and not to break any NDAs or anything, but just from what I've seen, these attacks like the Atlantean drop are very strong. And from what I've seen, there's really not much that survives it anyway. Maybe on extremely hard difficulties or for elite enemies or brutes and stuff, you can kind of get an extra shield harvest. You go boom, right into a shield harvest. You're looking good. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to see more. I'm not super sold on this one, but we'll see. So the next one here is a little bit of a special one. So this is part of the Infamy set. So differently from the Notorious set, the Notorious, like the Black Mask one, is almost like an exotic, right? Almost like an exotic piece of gear. The Infamous are also based on villains, but they're set pieces. So this one in particular is gizmos, right? So you'll see the perks on the left-hand side. The actual grenade itself doesn't have any like unique perks just off the bat, but when you have it equipped, you'll get a 1-piece bonus. And if you have another gizmo piece, whether it's a weapon or a shield or whatever, you'll get the 2-piece bonus. So nothing special about the grenade, but what I wanted to highlight is essentially Gizmo's bonus set here. So having just 1 piece of Gizmo set gives you 50% damage dealt to burning enemies. Strong, like we saw with the Black Mask Mark. Could be a great pairing with that, right? If you're just burning every enemy's on fire, you'll definitely want to pair that with this so you get that extra 50% to all of those burning enemies. And then the 2-piece, if you have 2 of them, is grenades do 50% less damage, but have a 100% chance to burn all enemies hit. When your shield is broken, release a burst of the Diablo Blaze, which is the burn, that burns all enemies within 50 meters. This can only happen once every 30 seconds. So this is pretty interesting. So obviously turns your grenade, less damage, but essentially always burning. So you'll want to pair this with a grenade that maybe spreads out some damage. I know they talked about a grenade that kind of spawns child grenades, covers maybe a greater area. That could be a good combo with this. And then you'll notice when the shield's broken, right? So we talked about kind of that Harley Quinn aerial piece that kind of when you hit multiple enemies with it, you get your shield right back, right? So that could be a good pairing with this, get your shield back, let it get broken, burn everybody, get it back, let it get broken. You get the idea. But definitely this, you'll want to have at least the 1-piece bonus, maybe the 2-piece, if you're doing any type of burning damage. So just wanted to show that. Do I think this is good? I think it could be good. I guess we'll have to see what else we can do with burning damage, but I think it is just cool to showcase if you haven't seen how this set gear works, right? So you'll just have to have 2 pieces equipped and you'll get those active bonuses. So pretty cool one there. The next one we have is called the Half-Vester. The Half-Vester. This is a Captain Boomerang legendary. Shield harvesting an enemy that's below 50% health, kills it, and deals 25% of its max health as damage to enemies within 10 meters. This is pretty strong, all right? So this essentially turns your shield harvest, which is already a very strong melee attack, basically turns it into just you're dead, right? If you think, if you know anyone who's watching this who's played maybe Marvel's Avengers or anything like that, if you remember like Captain America, who just had, you know, essentially instant kill on anybody who was below 35% health, it's kind of, you kind of play that enforcer role, right? You're kind of just the guy who's just, as long as any enemy is, you know, under a certain point, they're gone. There's nothing to worry about. And then you'll see there, you know, kind of gives it a little bit of that AoE. So 25% of its max health. Obviously, if you're doing this to larger brute type enemies, it's going to be a major benefit to kill those quicker. And then it's going to do massive damage to everything around it. So this could be a very good melee piece for Captain Boomerang. We'll have to see how it compares to some other ones, but I think this is definitely going to be a good one. All right, next one we have is called the Leg Day, all right? So this weapon does critical damage when hitting an enemy's legs, but low damage to heads and weak points. So this is pretty interesting. So it kind of flips the crits, right? So when you're shooting this, you want to shoot the enemies in their legs. It'll do crit damage there, but don't bother shooting them in the head. I think this is actually pretty good. I think this could be pretty solid for a couple of reasons. One, it kind of gives a bigger crit, right? Obviously, shooting the enemy anywhere below the half of their body is a bigger crit zone than shooting them in the head, right? So you'll probably get more crits in general. However, the bigger thing to me is that shooting them in the legs, intrinsically, what the way the game works is shooting enemies in the leg is what causes them to become shield harvestable naturally. So you're going to get crits shooting them in the leg, and they're going to become shield harvestable, so you could start doing that. This is something that really nice. I think this compare very nicely with something like that Half-Fister we just watched, where you're getting rewarded for shooting the legs anyway, or even something like King Shark, where you get extra damage or extra combo meter for meleeing guys anyway. Definitely get those legs down, finish them off with a melee, get your combo up. I think this is going to be a pretty good legendary. Definitely, I would do it more on something. I guess it could be good on a sniper. It could be good on low rate of fire weapons. I would personally use it on something that's maybe a bit of a higher rate of fire, just so that you can, also take advantage of, those takedowns. But even with a sniper, I mean, snipers obviously have high crit damage multipliers, right? So just like sniping someone in the leg and getting that full crit from the sniper could be very strong as well. So really, I think this is going to be a really good piece that I think works pretty well, just for different variety of different builds. Next one we have is another Infamy set. So this is the Lex Luthor Infamy set. This is called the Cost of Business. So again, this is on a Traversal mod for Harley, but again, the Traversal mod itself is irrelevant. There's no legendary perk directly on it, but having the one piece gives you 50% crit hit damage against brute enemies. So larger enemies, you're going to be doing 50% bonus crit, obviously worth pairing with some type of guaranteed crit gun, high crit chance, the Leg Day, the free flow, one of those. You'll definitely want this for those brute enemies. And then that level 2 piece, critical hits generate 1% suicide strike resource. And traversal attacks do 50% less damage, but have 100% chance to electrify all enemies hit. So this is really interesting. I think this could be a really, really good piece. Obviously, getting critical hits, generating 1% suicide strike resource, you're going to want to pair that with a very high rate of fire weapon, probably an LMG or an SMG, something like that, to just really be able to lay in with those critical hits. I would pair this maybe even with that, excuse me, Pair that with the leg day or the free flow to just be able to lean in on those crits and then just consistently get that 1% per hit, right? Really, really strong, it seems like. And then using your traversal attack, you're going to do less damage, but 100% chance to electrify all enemy hits is pretty strong because that, again, gives that guaranteed crit chance. So that could be a really good pairing, especially if you're using another mod that, gives some sort of utility to your traversal attack. Think of the one that when you hit, everyone becomes shield harvestable, right? Now you're doing 50% less damage. They're probably going to survive that, and then you can clean them all up with the shield harvest, potentially pair that with something that, gives you a benefit to shield harvest, and just keep stacking these buffs on top of each other for a gameplay loop. I think this is going to be a really, really good set bonus, this Lex 2 piece, so that's going to be one to look out for. Speaking of looking out, this one here is called the Lookout Below. Didn't get a great screenshot of it, but this is a legendary Harley Quinn mod. Grapple attack has a 50% chance to drop grenade ammo and also give you 3 times combo for each enemy hit. So again, grapple attack is Harley's traversal attack. Perfect example with the one we just saw, right? If you're able to get that Lex set bonus and pair it with this, you're going to do less damage on your traversal attack, but you're going to electrify everybody. You're going to be able to do it more and do it for a technical benefit more so than just pure damage. You're going to be able to get that grenade ammo back, pair that with a really strong grenade, give you 3 times combo for every enemy hit. That'll get your combo meter right up. Definitely, could be a really good Harley Quinn mod if you're able to get your traversal attack off cooldown very quickly. Definitely one to look out for. All right, this next one here is called the Lucky Digger. This is a Captain Boomerang traversal mod. Using your Speed Force Dash ability increases your shotgun damage by 50% up to a maximum of 100% for 20 seconds. This seems pretty strong, obviously, if you're using shotguns, which I think are definitely one of the better guns on Captain Boomerang. So this seems like a must-have if you're using shotguns. And again, the Speed Force Dash, of course, very easy to just use that. Even if you just go a couple of feet, just move a little bit around the enemies, and then you have that essentially 100% damage buff for 20 seconds with shotguns. Really, really strong. Just a clean, pure damage buff here. You really don't have to do much because you're going to be using your Speed Force Dash anyway. You're definitely going to use it twice within 20 seconds in any fight. So pretty much you can just look at this as a straight up 100% for shotguns. Must have for shotgun builds. Probably not going to do much anywhere else. All right, next one we have is called the O Snap. So this is another legendary gun. Counter bullets deplete your shield 5 times more than usual, but successful counters spawn shield pickups. Successful critical counters give 2 times more. So this one, I don't think it's that good. The counter mechanic is a little tricky to use anyway. You have to kind of spend shield to counter the enemy attacks. This one kind of gives you shield pickups, but then you got to go get them. I'm not super sold on this one, but let me know what you think. Maybe if there's a way to, I don't know, maybe if this triggers like the shield break explosion by spending shield rather than taking damage, maybe it could be good. But this one to me doesn't seem, just of everything we've looked at so far, I just can't see myself really using this over some of the other guns we've already looked at. But let me know in the comments if you feel this could be good. All right, next one we got here is called the Party Starter. So this is a Harley Quinn legendary traversal mod. At 20 times combo and higher, your traversal attack deals 500% more damage, but cost 20 times combo when used. So this is kind of the opposite of what we were just talking about. The other traversal mod we had was really more utility. Did less damage, but you got grenade energy, you got combo. This one is the opposite. This is, you have to spend your combo and you're focusing all in on damage, right? Could be good. Obviously, it's just a really flat damage buff. 500% more damage is certainly a lot, but it does cost 20 combo, which is a sizable amount of combo. But if there is a way, that you can get more combo quickly with Harley, pair this with some other items, and get that traversal attack back quickly, it could be a really good build where that's just your gameplay flow, just looping traversal attacks over and over and just absolutely decimating. Could be pretty solid. So we'll have to see what this compare with. All right, next one we got is the Penguins set piece here. So this one's called And Bob's Your Uncle. And basically for the one piece bonus, Shooting frozen enemies regenerates 2% shield per shot. So this obviously pairs with, you know, freeze and deep freeze. You're going to want deep freeze afflictions with this. Obviously pretty high rate of fire weapons, right? So you can just really lean into these frozen enemies who are going to die pretty quickly to your guns anyway because they take a ton of extra damage, but you'll just keep your shield up. So pretty solid. And then traversal attacks deal 0 damage, but have a 100% chance to freeze all enemies hit. 8% passive affliction resource generation per second. So again, turns your traversal attack into a bit of a utility more so than damage. Can be really good if you can get it back very quickly and you don't care about the damage. And then 8% passive affliction resource generation per second. I'm not 100% sure on what that means. What I believe it is you do kind of generate resource for your afflictions, as it sounds, and, you know, your ability to kind of apply these afflictions. So gives a little bit of bonus to that. This one I'm not super sold on just compared to the other ones, the Lex and the Gizmo. This one seems like the worst of the 3, but again, this is just the 3 we've seen so far. Maybe there's a way to do it. Obviously, if you're a frozen build, maybe even just using a one-piece set might be good enough for you. Hard to say, but we'll see. Could be really strong for like a shieldy kind of tank build, but I don't know about that traversal attack doing no damage. That's just me, but I'm sure we'll see builds for it for sure. All right, next one we have is the prize shooter. So this is a gun here. So all counters are critical counters. However, your counters take 5 seconds to recharge. So again, goes back to that counter shot mechanic and just makes it so that those counters are crits. So they're going to do more damage to these enemies. The downside of taking 5 seconds to recharge is not the worst thing, because I think they do take a couple of seconds to recharge anyway. They do spend your shield, so you can't just shoot off counters nonstop anyway. This one I'm not super sold on. Again, the whole counter mechanic to me is a little wonky. I can definitely tell you for my play style, I'm going to try to find ways around that and just do damage in other ways. And really hopefully not use the counter mechanic too much if I can help it, but it is going to be kind of necessary. So maybe this could be good. It depends how much that crit counter bonus really is for this to be good. All right, next one we have here is the Sick Burn. So this is another gun, this time on a shotgun. Hitting enemies within 5 meters of you with this weapon burns them. Very strong. So a shotgun, I think, is the right choice for this, right? Because it's close range anyway. They have to be within 5 meters. Definitely SMGs, though. Possibly even an LMG can be really strong with this. And yeah, I mean, pretty much what you've seen already, right? Pairing this with any type of other burn mechanics, pairing this with the Gizmo set so that, you know, you do more damage to burning enemies, pretty much plays itself, right? So you want to obviously just stack. If you have a lot of different ways to stack burning damage and take advantage of burning damage, this gun can definitely be a core piece of any build like that. I don't know if it's better than the Black Mask's Mark. It might be close. This seems like it could be really good if there's not a lot of enemies. Again, the Black Mask Mark, you kind of have to spread the damage for them to all explode. So if you're fighting a boss or like a single enemy, maybe this one will be a little better because it'll still apply that burn if you're close enough. But we'll have to see in gameplay. I think this could be a really good one, especially obviously around a burn type of build. All right, next one we have here is a grenade. This is called the Slot Machine. So each enemy hit by this grenade drops either shield pickups, a less potent damage buff, I'm not 100% sure what that means, or ammo. So it's basically a resource-giving grenade. Could be good. I mean, shield pickups are fine. Having a little bit of a damage buff, we don't know the exact numbers of what that damage buff is, or ammo. In my experience of what I've seen, I don't think ammo is super duper hard to come by, so that might be a little bit of a, you know, a little redundant there, but, you know, can't say no to a damage buff. We'll have to see how much it is. Just from the few grenades we've seen, this one doesn't seem to be the fanciest grenade or the most powerful grenade that we've seen, but you never know. Could be solid, and, you know, we'll see how it compare with other things to see how that gets. Next one we have here is called the Slow and Steady. So this is another grenade. When used as a non-affliction grenade, meaning you don't have an affliction on it, it's just a kinetic type weapon, right? This grenade does no damage, but enemies hit by it are sent up to the air vertically in slow motion. So could be pretty solid. It is what they call a fastball grenade. Now the other one we saw was like a cluster grenade, so it probably does like a little bit of a AoE type of deal. This one looks like it's probably just you throw it and it just goes exactly where you put it. It goes a distance of 100 meters. But could be solid as a bit of a crowd control. Like I said, obviously it does no damage. But if you're really looking for that kind of, support build, this could be solid. I don't know if it's going to be better because there's already a gun that does that. The gun that when you shoot an enemy, all the enemies near it go in the air. I think that's a little more valuable to have that on a gun rather than a grenade, right? Your grenades are a pretty valuable resource compared to just shooting enemies. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it plays out. Could be solid. Could be good to pair with, getting a grenade to just drop randomly. That could be pretty interesting. All right, next one here is another very strong one. And again, I apologize for the kind of the way it's laid out a little bit differently than the rest. But this is called the Stacked Deck, and I think this is going to be one of the best guns in the game, in my opinion. So this firearm's damage is reduced by 50%, but each successive hit on an enemy with this firearm causes the enemy to take 5% more damage from all sources for 10 seconds, up to a maximum of 250% more damage. So this is a very strong, very, very, very strong single target damage gun. And it's a little bit of a support gun as well, right? So I think you probably want this to be on a very high rate of fire. A shotgun in this is what this one is. That could work if every pellet counts. I would maybe do something like an LMG so you can just really lean in with that. But I could totally see this for bosses, if you have bosses in like a damage phase or large enemies, right, that you can really lean in and get up to that 250. Because keep in mind, it takes that damage from all sources. So your teammates hitting the same enemy that you've been laying into, they're going to be doing 250% more damage with their weapons as well. So I think in any type of raid boss or, team play situation, I feel like you got to have at least one of these on the team. And just for that ubiquity, I think this is going to be one of the best guns in the game for sure. All right, next one here is the Great Suspender. So this is a Captain Boomerang, legendary Boomerang again. Melee hits put all enemies within 10 meters in slow motion for 5 seconds. This seems like it's going to be one of the better melee pieces on Captain Boomerang. Now, the one you're seeing on screen has a deep freeze affliction. We'll get into all the afflictions and all that in a separate video, but just looking at the perk here for this melee piece for Boomerang, this is looking good. This is looking good. Obviously, you can melee quite a bit, right? So being able to just melee here, there, everywhere, and just get all those enemies around you in slow motion, that could be really, really strong. I firmly believe, just from what we've seen so far, this is probably going to be one of the chase legendaries on Captain Boomerang. So Boomerang mains, you guys are eating good. Definitely this is one you're going to want to look out for. All right, next one we have here is called the Touchdown. So this is a legendary Harley Quinn Traversal mod. Skilled landings and ground slides have a 100% chance of dropping a live grenade at your feet. Can only occur once every 20 seconds. So I'm not 100% sure what a skilled landing is, but what the ground slide is essentially, and I don't know if it's unique to Harley, but when you land, if you kind of hit your slide, your dodge button, I think, right at the time that you hit the ground, you'll go into a slide kind of pretty fast. So you may have seen that in some gameplay footage, but basically exactly that. So when you land and do a slide right away, it is kind of a skilled landing, right? You'll drop a grenade, and I assume it's going to be the same grenade that is your equipped grenade. So if you pair this with, again, something like the bang grenade or something like that, a really strong grenade in your slot, could be a good way to just get more of that same grenade. So definitely, if you have a grenade build, this is probably going to be one you'll want to have just to be able to get that to proc more often. All right, next one here is the Turkey Shoot. So this is a gun, obviously, in this case an SMG. I don't know why I keep saying that. But this firearm does 250% increased crit hit damage and has 0% crit hit chance against enemies in slow motion. Now, the 0% crit hit chance is throwing me a little bit. I'm willing to bet that you're just going to be able to get crits anyway if you do them from an unnatural source. So think like critting after meleeing or critting because someone's electrified. But does it to slow motion enemies. So the match made in heaven is like we just saw, the Great Suspender. Meleeing an enemy, every enemy within 10 meters goes into slow motion, and then you turkey shoot them. You're going to be doing crits because you just meleeed them, and you're going to be doing 250% more damage. These two seem like an absolute bread and butter Captain Boomerang combo. So again, you know, Boomerang mains. There may be other builds, but this one, I think just right off the bat, I think this is an easy 1-2 punch to shoot for. I think you can just look at the turkey shoot and the Great Suspender. If you get both of those, I think you'll be able to ride that for quite a while until, you know, you maybe craft a different build. So definitely be on the lookout for those two together. All right, second to last one we have here is the Unstoppable Force. So this is a Deadshot. We haven't seen a lot of Deadshot. This is a Deadshot melee weapon. Each second spent in the air increases the damage of your next melee attack by 45%, up to a maximum of 450%. So this is really interesting. Obviously, time spent in the air, of course, that is a Deadshot staple, right? Really interesting, though, because I would not, if you were to think like who's a melee character in this game, I would not have thought Deadshot would be there. However, just looking at this, 450% extra melee damage, pretty solid, right? That being said, it's for every second, right? So if you're only meleeing, if you're doing a true melee build, you're probably not going to be wanting to melee once every 10 seconds, right? But even still, this seems like a really strong, just pure damage bonus, even if it's not every 10 seconds, right? Even if you melee every 2 seconds, you're still getting a 90% damage bonus, which is very strong, right? That's nothing to scoff at. We'll have to see. I don't know. I haven't really dug too deep into Deadshot as far as like what else, maybe on his skill tree he could possibly have that could bolster his meleeing. The other thing to keep in mind with Deadshot is he's got the longest range melee in the game, right? So other characters, you know, their melee kind of dashes them across the map a little bit, kind of like the free flow combat from Arkham. But Deadshot, you can actually just melee straight up. You could be in the air hovering above an enemy, you know, 10 meters away and still be able to just melee them. And it still does a melee move, even though it's with his wrist cannon. So if there's a way to do a Deadshot melee, pure melee build, I think this is going to be a major piece of it. All right, and then the last one here we have is the What Goes Up. So this is a Harley Quinn legendary traversal mod. Each second spent in the air generates 1% traversal attack, suicide strike, and affliction until one of those resources are full. So this is interesting. This just at a glance sounds very strong. Just regenerating 3 different resource types is at the same time is very strong. Even if it's only 1% per second, I think that can add up very quickly if you're just, because you're naturally going to be in the air just for doing different things. It does only go until one of those resources are full. So again, not 100% sure how like filling affliction works, but assuming it's something that kind of comes off cooldown, I think this will be a pretty solid, just well-rounded Harley Quinn piece. You know, it'll force you to kind of manage your cooldowns, right? So obviously once either your traversal attack, your suicide strike, or your affliction is full, you're going to want to use it immediately so that you're not wasting time with this. You're getting the maximum benefit of it, but you're going to want to be doing that anyway. You're going to want to be maximizing your resources and maximizing your cooldowns anyway. So to me, this just pairs nicely with that. It definitely seems like a high skill ceiling mod, but certainly will just be a very generically strong mod for Harley Quinn. So that's my opinion. But anyway, that is all of them. If there are any other legendaries that I have not covered here, like I said, I scrubbed through a ton of different, you know, first impressions videos to try to find what I could find and just summarized them all here. If there are other ones, let me know down in the comments what they are. But that's pretty much it. Let me know if you made it this far. Be sure to leave a like. Again, subscribe if you are a fan of Suicide Squad, especially endgame content, because that's what we're going to be covering on this channel. And let me know down in the comments of everything we've seen so far. What's your favorite legendary that we've seen? And I say legendary, infamous piece, or notorious piece. Let me know what the coolest piece you think you've seen is down in the comments below. But that is it from me, guys. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. You have a great day.